We are going to discuss connecting the router in these visuals. In this section, we will get into the router, and we are starting from connecting the router. There is a question that why we connect to the router. Obviously, we connect the router to access the router so that we can implement various operations on the router. To access the router, we have two ways. One way is that we can access the router directly, and the other way is we can access the router remotely. To use both ways for accessing the router, we have to connect the router first of all with appropriate cables so that we can access the router directly and remotely. So let's discuss the cable types through which we can connect the router to access the router. The router is accessed through different ways, and there are some ways. Let me get into there. You can see these are the ways. So let's discuss these one by one. The router is accessed through Ethernet ports. There are different types of cable under this option of accessing the router, and you can see further it is through auxiliary port, through VTY ports. So first of all, I am going into through Ethernet port. Okay, now here are the options for through Ethernet port. You can see it includes straight through cable, it includes crossover cable, it includes rolled, it is also known as rollover cable. First let me now straight through cable. What I am going to discuss regarding straight through cable is that let me get into here. You can see this is the Cat6 cable, you can see, and this is the RJ45 clip. Now when we arrange the twisted color wires in its default position and fit a RJ45 clip on it, this becomes a straight through cable. Let me tell you, for creating such type of cable, this is the default wire pattern. Now you can see there are four twisted pairs in this Cat6 cable. White, orange, orange on the top, then white, green, green, then white, blue, blue, then white, brown, brown. So you have to arrange the wire pattern on both the sides of the cable and have to fit RJ45 clip on it. There is a tool for fitting this clip. I don't know what exactly the name of that. I just cannot remember the name of that tool. Now the thing is, just remember these wire names, just write it down. And obviously I have seen some network engineers, some network technicians, they are master of creating such RJ45 clips. Even then they have written these wires in their briefcase and things like that. Now first of all, for straight through cable, you have to arrange the pattern of wires on both sides of the cable. Number one, on the top of the side, and I've named it the number one. On top it should be white and orange. Number two, orange. Number three would be white and green. Number four will be blue, then white and blue, then green, then 7 will be white and brown, and then brown. These are total of 8 wires. Arrange it, fit it, cut it accordingly, and then plug a RJ45 clip on these wires and just lock the clip. So this is how we create straight through cable. Now this is the thing we have discussed. Now the thing is where we use straight through cable, although we have discussed how to create straight through cable. Now let me get into, we use straight through cable for connecting PC with a switch or a hub, or we use straight through cable to connect a router with a switch or hub. So this is where we use straight through cable. This is where we create straight through cable. Now another thing is regarding crossover cable. Now wire is same, your RJ45 clip is also same, but this time let me get into crossover cable. Here you can see this is a Cat6 cable. Okay, this is the RJ45 clip, same wires. Now what happened in this regard for crossover cable is that, now let me show you. Okay, now we create a crossover cable by designing one side of that cable, you can see as this. You should design one side. You should design and plug RJ45 clip on it, on one side of the cable in this pattern. Now number 1 wire would be white and orange, number 2 orange, number 3 white and green, number 4 blue, number 5 white and blue, number 6 green, number 7 white and brown, and finally brown. So just arrange the wires of that side, and I mean plug RJ45 clip on it and lock that clip. Now the other side of cable, you have to design the other side of cable in this regard. Now there are few changing. You can see at number 1 white and green, number 2 green, there is orange but here you have to put green, number 2 green, number 3 white and orange. It is also changed. For one side it is white and green, number 4 would remain blue, number 5 will be white and blue, number 6 orange, number 7 white and brown, and number 8 brown. So one side would be like this and one side would be like this. So there are few changings, like number 2 you can see is different, number 3 is different, number 6 is different, rest of the wires are same. So just be careful for creating your crossover cables and straight through cables. Although this is a pattern, we design our straight through cables and crossover cables. Now we have discussed that how we design straight through cable and where we use straight through cable, and we have also discussed how we design crossover cables and for where we can use crossover cables, where we use crossover cables. So let me go to there. Okay, now we use crossover cable for connecting router with a router. We use crossover cable for connecting switch with a switch. We use crossover cable for connecting hub with the hub. We use crossover cable for connecting PC with a PC, and we use crossover cable for connecting router directly with PC. So this is how these important cables, straight through cable and crossover cable, are created, and this is how it is used. Now let me tell you a thing that, well, in I mean years back when switches and things were used, that was the time for creating such cables. Although I have listened, I mean heard and also I'm a bit experienced or not, that straight through cable will work for every device, even for crossover things like that. This is my personal observation, and you can but it I mean new technologies coming and things like that. I've also discussed this matter with a technician. He said that yes, you can use nowadays straight through cable on everything, but even then we follow these rules and regulations, creating crossover cable and straight through cable and things like that. Now the final category of through Ethernet port is rolled, also known as rollover cable. Now let's get to a scenario. Okay, now rollover cable is used for connecting router's console port with computer's serial port, and it is simple. I'm going to show you router console ports a bit later in the same video. I'm going to show you the front and back of my 2610 router. Okay, this is how we use this. I will also show you rollover cable also. This is a blue cable I have. Now this is how we have almost done discussing through Ethernet port. Now let's get back to here. We have done discussing through Ethernet port. Now let's discuss through auxiliary port. So there is a scenario. Okay, now here you can see we access the router remotely by using auxiliary port. As you can see in this auxiliary port scenario, we connect the router to its auxiliary port using modem so that we can access the router remotely. Auxiliary port option is used as a backup. So I didn't see any scenario, anything like that, the person or an engineer using auxiliary port. I personally, it is my experience, although it is also a method for accessing the router. Okay, the one is through VTY ports, VTY lines. Well, we access this router through this router by using VTY ports. How? I'm gonna operate my whole routers and things like that through VTY lines. How we access that? For this, we are going to discuss all this stuff for after installing iOS and things like that in our later visuals. So this is how we use VTY ports. We are almost done discussing. We have discussed through Ethernet port, discussed auxiliary port, discussed VTY ports. Now let's get back. Now let me tell you that I'm gonna show you the front and back as I told you. So let me go to the scenario where we're going to do this stuff. Okay, now this is my Cisco 2610 router. This is the front of my router, here you can see, and this is the back of my router. Now this is the Ethernet port, this one is the console port, and this one is the console port, and this is the console cable. You plug one side of RJ45 side of your cable here in this console port, and the other side of that cable on your PC's serial port. So this is your auxiliary port, and this is the power button you just on and off for on and off your router. This is the power cord. You plugged your power cord here one side. This is your power cable. One side you plug here, the other side you plug on your electricity. Okay, these are the things. Now this is the serial interfaces. We are going to discuss serial connecting through serial interfaces while discussing wide area network. So this is the whole. These images belongs to the router. Now let's move in to this. Let's check how switch looks like. Now this is my 2950 Cisco Catalyst switch, and this is the front of my router. This is the front of my switch. You can see this is the front. It is 24 fast Ethernet port switch. So this is the console port, and same is the thing. We plug one side of this cable here and the other side to PC. This one is the power cable. You plug your power cable one side here and other side to electricity. Now we are almost done discussing our things which belong to these visuals. Well, here I conclude our discussion on connecting the router. We have discussed different ways of accessing the router directly and indirectly. I showed you switch also. Well, I've showed you. We have discussed straight through cable process, crossover cable process, rolled cable process. We have also discussed the use of straight through and crossover cables and some indirect ways like accessing the router using VTY ports. I also showed you the images of router and switch. If you feel any problem regarding these visuals, just replay these visuals and be prepared for upcoming visuals. Thank you.